Welcome back to Newsmakers. We are discussing all things energy with Roger Sutton, who is Chief Executive of Orion New Zealand and Chairman of the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority, known as EECA. It's a lot easier, isn't it? Now, smart meters have been rolled out recently. I'm keen to get your thoughts on these because there has been a bit of flack directed at the respective companies, suggesting that the consumer has no benefit in store from these things. What do you think?
I mean, I've got a smart meter in my house to the extent that I'm on a day-night pricing option. So It's smart to that extent. Yeah. I think the frustration that people have had is that these meters perhaps aren't quite as smart as they could have been. The newest generation, the smart meters that are going to be coming out next year or the year after, are going to have the capability to turn things off in your house when the price goes high. Mm-hmm. So instead of being on, say, a day-night price, you might be on a super peak price and a night price and a weekend price. And with this fancy meter, it would say, gee, the wind suddenly stopped blowing, or the lakes have suddenly got a little bit short in some particular area. This wholesale price of electricity is going to go high. I'm going to turn your fridge off for an hour, I'll turn your dryer off during this period, and so on. So the frustration is that maybe we could have put in meters that would allow us to interact with all the appliances around the house. The first thing people just do, though, is just make sure they're on a pricing option where they can, if they're using lots of energy at night or whatever.
Have that split between
have that sort of split.
Yeah.
But I think the industry has, unfortunately, put a lot of money into these smart meters, and customers are yet to see any real benefit, and I think that is a real pity.
And obviously a lot of people have lost their jobs who used to be meter men, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, for a period there were a lot of people walking around Christchurch changing out meters. But that's right, you know, there used to be 20 or 30 guys who did meter reading around Christchurch, and most of them are no longer doing it. So, yeah.
Smart appliances, obviously to foresee the future here, if we have new generation smart meters interacting with smart appliances, that will mean upgrading those appliances for the household, won't it? So that's
that's right. Although for a lot of people, believe it or not, change their fridge out every 10 years. They buy a new washing machine, you know.
True.
We're a consumer society. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't necessarily would actually have to be the appliance. You might just have a plug-in box.
Right.
Like a timer, and this timer-like device will then talk back to your meter. But, I mean, you know, we are a consumer society. A lot of those new appliances are a lot more energy efficient, though. You know, the modern fridge uses about half the energy of a fridge that's 10 or 15 years old. So, you know, there are improvements as well. It's not all downside.
Sure. Now, of course, sustainable energy has become such a popular catchphrase. It's something that you've been a promoter of for a very long time. I think the first time I came across Roger Sutton was some years ago when he was brandishing eco-bulbs. You're one of the nation's first cheerleaders for this, in a very responsible position. Do you think the nation is being converted to the cause?
I think a lot of people are realising that, you know, eco-bulbs or energy-efficient light bulbs are, you know, save a lot of money. You know, on average, the New Zealand household spends about $200 a year on lighting their house. So, you know, an eco-bulb.
He even brought some in.
I brought some in.
Never misses a moment.
Well, you know, there you go. There's one which is looks just like a normal light bulb.
So this hasn't got the piggly, squiggly things, has it?
I got those as well. So, you know, they come in all sorts of ranges of sizes.
Yeah.
So people are getting much more comfortable with the technology. Some people don't like the fact they can take a little bit longer to warm up. Although if you wake up in the middle of the night and go for a pee, I'm not sure why you do actually want the lights coming on really brightly, really quickly.
Just to make sure you get in the hole, you know. There is this to consider, Roger. By the way, the Energy Minister still maintains that consumers deserve the right to choose what they put in their socket. Do you think he's right?
I think if you're gonna mandate the fact that you can't buy the least efficient light bulbs, you have to take people with us. And we haven't taken people with us. People weren't persuaded, and while people aren't persuaded, there's no point. You know, there's no point trying to persuade them. But if we want to reduce our energy use in the country, this is probably one of the most cost-effective ways of doing it. You know, these are about 5 or 10 times more cost-effective than, say, solar water heating. So it's a really, really cheap way of us keeping the lights on and people having lower power bills.
Yeah. OK. Now, as Roger mentioned before we went to the break, Warm Up New Zealand, this great government initiative that is underway, huge uptake around the country, apparently, from people wanting, you know, to access the subsidies. How significant do you think this project is?
This is a big, gutsy program. We're going to do, hopefully, 180,000 houses over the next 4 years. About 30,000 houses this year, and then ramping up to, I think it's 70,000, 80,000 in year 4. Generous subsidies, 30% off if you're a normal, a normal person. A low-income person can get up to 60% off or more off of their insulation, and also subsidies for clean heating devices as well. So I think it's going to make a lot of difference to a lot of people's lives. Because as we said, power bills have gone up, and for a low-income person living in a cold, drafty house, I don't know how they do live any sort of life of dignity, how to have their grandchildren around at the weekends or whatever. And I think it's going to make a real difference to those people.
Now, as you mentioned, your June power bill was $140, and this is a family household bill. This is not Roger living alone. You've got, what, 3 kids?
3 kids.
Yes, Mrs. Sutton. How do you do it?
Energy-efficient light bulbs. I've had the house properly insulated. We have a wood burner and a heat pump. Night rate hot water.
And now, Roger, of course, heat pumps have been the biggest new heating source in Canterbury as part of this great conversion from solid fuel heating. There have been reports from time to time that the rise of heat pumps is going to place an enormous strain on our power supply. Is it a problem?
No, doesn't appear to be at this stage.
Could it be?
It could be. The peak on the Orion system this winter has been no higher than last year and no higher than the year before either. So we actually think the heat pumps are probably replacing inefficient old heating and are therefore actually reducing people's power bills rather than actually increasing them, and therefore not increasing the strain on the power system.
If you had an open fire, would you fill it in completely or leave it be as a backup, just in case the sky falls in?
Well, this house I've got, I put wood burners in. The most modern, efficient heat wood burners, and
they're compliant.
They are fully compliant, and that's what I'd be doing. Yeah. Also for New Zealand, from the wider environmental point of view, I'm afraid I think the wood burner is still a really good solution for New Zealand. We're always going to be winter energy, in an electricity sense, is always going to be more valuable than summer energy. Winter electricity will probably be, in the longer term, might get more expensive than summer energy. I don't know. A wood burner, I think, is a great way to heat your house.
Sure. OK. Now, after the break, we are going to look at New Zealand's renewable energy future, and we'll roll out all of the options on the table. Before we do that, what about structural change to the industry? Obviously, the government is keeping a bit of a watching brief on this, whether it be structural or regulatory change. Do you see anything in the pipeline?
It's hard to know what they'd do, especially now we've sold off parts of the system, if you like, to other people. Contact Energy, I think, is now New Zealand's second largest listed company. Wow. So putting, if you like, the eggs have been scrambled, and unscrambling that egg would be very difficult, especially in these tight financial times. So I think there are some things they can do, but I don't think they're particularly radical.
Do you see any changes to Orion?
I think the owners of Orion are very happy with what we do.
Would you like to be a power supplier?
It's hard being no. I've given the option. I might, but actually, Mike, we're very happy doing what we're doing, and doing it really well.
Sure.
Getting back into the retail game, competing with those guys, we think would be really, really messy.
OK. So there'll be no wind turbines on your roof anytime soon?
We are doing a little bit of thinking about wind at the moment, but for us, we really want to keep to our core business. We're doing a little bit of thinking around that stuff around the margin. We're thinking a bit about backup power stations, small diesel-powered power stations to help keep the lights on in dry years. But overall, we want to be a really good line company, keeping people's lights on really reliably. That's really the thing that I think about when I first wake up in the morning.
Sure. Sticking to the knitting. Yeah. All right. Well, coming up, we'll have a look at our future and the renewable future. Do stay with us.